をいたしました。本日お忙しい中お越しいただきまして誠にありがとうございます。これよりマイクロソフトイノベーションミートアップを開演いたします。私は本日の司会進行を務めます益子瑞穂と申します。どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。まずはじめに日本マイクロソフト株式会社業務執行役員デベロッパー&プラットフォーム統括本部伊藤桂よりご挨拶申し上げます。では伊藤さんお願いいたします。
皆様本日もお忙しいところ、このマイクロソフトイノベーションミーツアップにようこそお越しいただきました。このイノベーションミーツアップですけれども、イノベーションを起こしている皆様が共に会う場ということで、イノベーションミーツアップという名前にさせていただきました。で本日はですね、私どものイノベーションアワードのファイナリストの選考会、そしてここにおられる審査員の皆様、日本でイノベーションといえばという素晴らしい論客の皆様ですが、皆様のパネルディスカッションというふうに半日でございますけれども、私どもの思いの丈をですね、披露させていただければと思います。でその前にでございますが、私の部署、ディベロッパー&プラットフォーム統括本部マイクロソフトのディベロッパー様向けのイニシアチブを取っている部署、すべてのマイクロソフトプラットフォームにわたってディベロッパー様向けのイニシアチブを取っている部署になります。でその部署を代表いたしまして、私の上司にあたりますが、コーポレートのバイスプレジデントが来ております。で彼からですね、マイクロソフトが今何を考えているのか、今のビデオにもございました、Windows 8が出て、そういえば 8.1 ももうすぐ出て、そうは言ってもなんかサーフェスも出て、Windows のアップストアもあって、なんか Xbox も今あったし、マイクロソフト今何を考えているんだって多くの方がお思いかもしれません。私たちは私たちなりにこの大企業の中であるいはお客様に対してイノベーションを起こさなければいけない。じゃあどういう方向感のイノベーションを起こそうとしているかということをですね、私のボスコーポレートバイスプレジデントのスティーブン・グッゲンハイマー、名前が長いのでニックネームがグッグスと言いますが、グッグスからご紹介させていただきたいと思います。Having said that, turning over to you guys.
はじめまして、私は Guggenheimer です。Unfortunately, that's the limit of my Japanese, so I will have some help with translation today. I just had a great opportunity to sit down with some of the key leaders in the industry on venture capital and startups and innovation here in Japan, and so that was helpful for me in this conversation. What I thought I'd do is just talk a little bit about what's going on in the industry, in our ecosystem, and then a little bit about what Microsoft's doing to try and participate, I'll say, in a very helpful way. I've been at Microsoft for about 19 years. I've watched multiple waves of technology trends as they've come and gone, and it's always fun to see how the industry we work in changes and how quickly it changes. And each time you think, okay, it can't move any faster. The pace of change and the acceleration continues to move forward, and so it's quite the challenge for I think all of us to figure out the best ways to contribute. So let me at least give you an attempt to talk about what we're working on. Today we've entered a period of time that we talk about as being the period of time of devices and services. The proliferation of smart devices continues to accelerate. So if I take a snapshot from the coming calendar year, you start with servers. There'll be about 10 million servers that ship. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. If you take tablets, let's say 200 million, depending on how you define them. A little more, a little less. PCs, 300 million, a little more, a little less. Smartphones, 750 million, maybe a little more, a little less. Embedded devices, 1 billion. You're talking about 2 billion more smart devices that will enter the market next year. All right? So you're seeing an incredible pace of I'll just say advancement in device technology, and as a result, devices that are everywhere. Right? You see the technology in smartphones today and how it continues to move forward. If you look at PCs and what's going on across tablets, PCs, all-in-ones, laptops, thinner, lighter, longer battery life, different screen sizes, we'll never hit a period where we'll have fewer types of devices. There'll always be more now. And And so we'll find, the same technologies in small screen devices, large screen devices, everywhere we go. So one of our collective challenges then is to deliver great experiences to end users across all of these devices. Because as an end user, I now carry more devices with me than I used to. If you look at the ratio of smart devices to people, there's a lot more smart devices than people in the world. Which means as individuals, we're going to carry or interact with more devices over time. So how do we make great experiences for the people who will interact with those devices? That's our collective challenge. That's the software side of it. The software can enable the hardware, but it also needs to create an environment where end users can have a great experience. One of the things that I think we're fortunate to have been able to participate in at Microsoft is the creation of some very large-scale services, things that end users use at very high volume. So 400 million email accounts, online email accounts, 250 million SkyDrive users, right? The number of Skype minutes per day, 2 billion, right? You see the size of the data storage. So one of the things we have firsthand experience on is building these very large-scale services. Well, why do services get important? As you see more and more devices come out into the world, what happens is developers start to try and build applications that leverage more code or capability centrally in the cloud and thinner or lighter weight based applications on the devices so they can cover as many devices as possible with, I'll say, the easiest amount of coding. One of the things we've done is built many of these services ourselves, which helps us in building platforms then for developers to use for building their services. Because over time, we're going to see more devices, so we're going to need to be able to make consistent experience across more of those devices. And at Microsoft, we're building not just the services, but the platform underneath it that then we can turn around and share with all of our partners, with all of you, with anyone else that wants to build. So, if I switch gears a little bit, one of the things that's happening in this switch to a world of devices and services is we're sort of at a transition point. There's a lot of existing code out there today that I'll talk about as an established application pattern. It's traditional client-server computing code. Right? A lot of that in the line of business, in particular in corporate America, corporate Japan, corporations around the world. That type of code exists, and most of the people that I interact with who have that are trying to figure out which part do I take to the cloud, how do I add a services capability to support more devices that are coming into my business, how do I leverage what I have, right, in this code base, and at the same time take advantage of the trends in devices and services, and more importantly, react to that. So that's a pattern that's out there. There's a whole generation of developers and a whole generation of applications there. At the same time, for many developers who are starting from scratch, they start with more of an emerging pattern, which is really around cloud and devices. How do I build as much of the logic or capability centrally in the cloud and distribute it to as many different types of devices as I possibly can? Some may be a little richer, some may be a little bit lighter or thinner, but overall, how do I sort of think in more of a cloud devices pattern? Now, Microsoft sort of sits across both of these. We've been around for a long time. We've been through the era of client-server computing and still support it, and we're also part of that cloud devices or emerging pattern. And I think one of the things that we've worked on uniquely is sort of how do you work across these? So if you go back to the client-server side, one of the things that I think we did well as a company was build some symmetry between the client side and the server side. So it turns out the core of our client software and our server software is the same. And what that means for developers is as you go to build applications, you can use the same identity, the same management, the same development tools, the same security. So that symmetry made it easier to build great client-server applications. Well, in today's world, we need to add new pieces into that, and that's exactly what we've been working on. There's symmetry now today across our traditional client software and the emerging set of devices, whether those are embedded devices or phones. While the code is not exactly the same, a lot of the core is the same, and that allows for symmetry in the development of applications, in the management, in things like identity and security. We also have symmetry between the server and the cloud side. One of the things that we spent a lot of time on is building the same capabilities, in particular for developers, across both our on-premise or private cloud or server offerings, whichever term you prefer, and our public cloud offerings. So if you build an application, you can run it on-premise, or you can run it in the cloud. If you want to move it back and forth, you can, or run parts of it. Maybe you want to keep your data locally, but run the application in the cloud. You can do that as well. So that symmetry from client to device, device to cloud, server to cloud, it's one of the uniquenesses that Microsoft brings to the developer community and into this world of client or devices and services based on both our history and in terms of we're making investments. And I think we're fairly unique in having both on-premise and off-premise capabilities and a strong history in both the commercial space and the consumer space. So as I think about those established application patterns or that migration or movement of the existing client-server apps, Microsoft is uniquely, positioned to help our partners make that move. As I think about the partners or developers building new applications in that cloud devices model, we're uniquely positioned to not only help enable them there, but connect back to that existing world and those existing applications. So one of the areas we will continue to invest in is that symmetry across all of the different places where developers might start from. It takes a little longer to build software that way, to be honest. It's a little more complicated, but in the end, it provides a very unique differentiation point from any other platform that's built in the market today. Now, as I think about the client side, I'm going to sort of switch over to the left or the top side of that picture. On the client, we've really focused on sort of three areas, in particular for the development side and the end user side. And that's around new experiences. The first is enabling users to interact with devices in a very natural way. Obviously, the keyboard and mouse have been around for a very long time now and is one way to interact with devices. But you'll notice with the phone and the tablets and now with PCs, we've enabled touch to be used in a very similar manner across all of the devices. So now you have touch as another interaction model. Many years ago, we pioneered using inking or digital pens. And that's not inking for a specific app. Many other devices will have an app very specific to a pen. That's all applications. You can use inking anywhere in the operating system, and every application can take advantage of it. So now you have mouse and keyboard, touch, inking, and then there are many others. Voice, for example. Right? If you use voice on a phone today, we've been working in that for a long time. In an auto PC, when I use voice commands, that's another interaction model. Probably the most sophisticated of the interaction models is the full body motion that comes with Kinect. All right, that's the ability to have the device react to the motions in your that you make as an individual. And with the new Xbox One, which was just announced, that technology is getting to another level of definition. It'll be able to see individual fingers. It'll be able to work better in a dark room. It'll provide for another level of interaction. So making it easy to interact with devices is one focus area. The second is making sure all these devices work well together. I mentioned that there's a proliferation of devices. How do you enable end users to have a consistent experience? Well, we started with simple things like having the UI or the user interface be very similar from phone to tablet to PC to TV. So that as an end user, I walk up and I first off know how to interact with it. Second, there are many services which allow those devices to share the content. So my music, my videos, my photos, my email, the people I interact with, all of those synchronize through the cloud, right? Which gives an end user the ability to have access to the same information regardless of the device they walk up to. And when they buy a new device, they can get access to it. And there are advancements being made with SkyDrive to make that even easier over time. So one of the things we've been working on between cloud and device is that ability to have a great, consistent experience connected across all of my Windows devices, including across phone, tablet, and PC, which again is fairly unique to the platform. The third is making the experiences personal. Right? We have this notion on both the phone and PC/tablet of a people area, which takes all of my information from Facebook or Twitter, or here it could be Line or some of the other end user services that I might have and aggregate for me all of the information by person. So when I go into the People Hub, I see all the things that are going on, what they've done on Facebook, what they've done online or Twitter, and pull that together. That is very personal. I can actually take those individuals, pin them to my start screen. So I have, instead of a sea of icons, I can mix people and applications. I can have live tiles so I can see what's going on dynamically when I look at the screen. So each device becomes my own. It's not my own because I organized icons. It's my own because it has the information relevant to me, active on my screen, organized the way I want, and combining, again, people, services, applications in a very unique perspective that's personal to me. And again, that's I'll say a different viewpoint, but it's something that we focused on across all of our devices. Now, the second area that we focused on is giving developers choices. It turns out that while there's the sort of client server and the cloud device app patterns, developers sort of start from a couple of different areas. There are developers that are primarily web developers. They use HTML5 and JavaScript. They've been doing that for a long time. And the good news is we support HTML5 and JavaScript natively in Windows 8. It's one of 3 app models. There's also a set of developers that grew up in managed code. Right? These are developers that have used .NET or Java. A lot of expertise or a lot of focus in the line of business area in this particular space. We support that as well as a sort of one of the native development environments. If you're a gamer, you write C++, DirectX, you want to write to the metal for very high fidelity or for very, the best throughput you can, we support that as well. So one of the things we've worked hard on with the Windows platform is allowing developers from different backgrounds to build applications natively. And that's a huge opportunity because it lets people from all backgrounds build for the platform. And over time, you'll see the work, some of it translates well to the phone. Over time, some of it will translate to other devices. It translates very well to embedded. So our ability to give developers choices and let them start from the background they're used to is another area in which we focus on for allowing people to build applications. For speed's sake, the third one is really sort of flexibility for commerce. So we talked about symmetry in terms of the platform overall, from client to device and cloud to server. I talked a little bit about developer choice, and we talked about the new user experiences. The last is the commerce platform. One of the things that's interesting today is if you look at revenue from software, turns out the largest percentage of revenue from software still comes from fairly large, complicated applications. Things like Oracle and SAP and Office and big games that run on consoles. Those are fairly complicated, intensive pieces of software to write. And that market's about $300 billion globally. The software that goes into app stores is only about $20 billion. So one of our collective challenges for the innovators in the world is to sort of increase the revenue or the ability to monetize applications on devices. And one of the things we've focused on is providing as much flexibility as we can. So we have a commerce platform. We allow people to use our commerce platform. We provide the best returns for those developers that build applications that cross a certain threshold. They move from 70% of the revenue to 80%. No one else offers that. At the same time, we also allow people to bring their own commerce platform. So if you run, for example, a video service and you aggregate videos from other companies, you probably run on thin margins. So having us run the commerce engine and have a percentage of that may not work for you. So we allow people to bring their own commerce engine. The same is true for advertising. You can use our ad engine or you can bring your own, right? No other platform offers the flexibility on the commerce side that we do. And part of the reason we've been working on that is to try to enable this particular area, which is the revenue base for devices, to increase. Because collectively we need to drive the increase in that area to help this part of the market thrive. And so we'll continue to provide the most flexible terms for commerce. So if you look across Windows, we've got some pretty good momentum on the application side. We've given developers choice in terms of how they build apps. We've provided the most flexibility for commerce. We're trying to enable the best experiences out there, and we've got the greatest number of entry points. And so as a result, you're seeing there's over 200,000 applications today across phone and PC, in both of the stores combined. And we continue to see the number of applications go up very quickly. for this point in time, we're ahead of any other platform for the short time we've been in market with Windows 8 and with the store. And so I thought what would be useful at this particular time is to actually show, have Yuta-san come up and show some apps here locally. One of the things I think I'm most proud of is the fact that it's not, applications from just one country. Our platform is global, and as a result, you see great applications in every country. And Yuta-san's going to show us some innovation that's going on here, so I'll hand over. Thank you.
では、皆さんちょっと英語が辛くなってきたところだと思うんですけども、ここからしばらく日本語でお伝えしたいと思います。改めましてマイクロソフトの渡辺裕太と申します。今ですね、マイクロソフトでエバンジェリストをしていまして、主に Windows ストアアプリ向けの、啓蒙活動をしていまして、その中でも、スタートアップの方々とか、学生の方々とか、あと新しい事業をやる方ですね、新しい新規事業を考えられている方々と一緒に、どんなことができるんでしょうかというのを模索することが多い立場でございます。今日はですね、日本のスタートアップからいくつか、Windows ストアアプリならではで Windows ストアでしかできない機能を活用したアプリが出ていますので、ちょっと短い時間になりますけれども、Windows ストアでどんなことができるのかをお伝えしたいと思います。今後の皆さんのその Windows ストアでのですね、ビジネスの参考になればなと思います。ではですね、いきなりなんですけれども、おそらくちょっと英語でせっかく秋葉原に来たのでというところだと思うので、いきなり初音ミクものからいきたいと思いますね。最初ビートロボさんですね。これ音楽アプリなんですけれども、よくあるプレイリストを無料で聴けます系のアプリです。なぜいいかというと、この全画面のアプリで遊ぶこともできますし、あとスナップモードですね。左で PV とか音楽を聴きながら、もちろん Windows でデスクトップで作業できるので、いいか悪いかは別として仕事中に音楽聴きながらもアプリを動かせますと。で、これ音楽聴いててアプリ今起動してるけど、やっぱり全画面で作業したいときどうするかっていうと、これアプリ閉じても裏で音楽続いてるんですね。これ Windows ストアの一つの機能でして、バックグラウンドのオーディオ再生ができる。なのでこの状態でも、例えば音量調整すると、今皆さんから見て左上ですね、次のボリュームコントロールとか、一時停止再生のボタンが出てきて、ちゃんとバックグラウンドで再生できます。これスタート画面で一緒ですと。こんな機能があるので、ビデオや音楽を裏で聴きながら何かサービスするとか、そういったこともできるのが Windows ストアの特徴になります。はい。じゃあちょっと秋葉っぽい音楽は、一旦終了しまして、もうちょっと真面目な方に行きましょう。ニュースアプリですね。ビンゴ。ちょっとですね、JX2C 社さんのビンゴはこの後プレゼンを控えているので、さらっとポイントだけお伝えしますと、まずこの最初の画面見ていただいたときに、マイクロソフトアカウントでログインというのがあります。これなぜかというと、Windows のユーザーの方々は全員マイクロソフトアカウントを使ってログインしているので、皆さんも自分で会員機能を作らなくても、マイクロソフトの ID を引っ張ってきて、それをユーザー認証の代わりにしてユーザーにサービスを提供することができます。マイクロソフトアカウントを使っていただければ、どの Windows デバイスからも同じユーザーだと判定してサービス構築できるので、シングルサインオンをやりたいなと思っていた方々は、ぜひこれ活用していただければなと思います。例えばなんですけど、タグでサーフェイス最近どんな感じかなという形で調べると、サーフェイスに関するニュースがキュレーションされまして、例えば、あなたに強くマッチしてます。サーフェイスプロの発表会というところで、これみんなに気になると思ったら Twitter アプリを選択していただいて、すぐにシェアすることができると。なので今まで Twitter の組み込み機能とか一生懸命実装してたと思うんですけれども、 Windows の場合はアプリ間の連携がスムーズにいくので、自分で実装しなくてもこういった機能を活用することができます。はい。今はですね、個人の情報の好みの情報をどうやって取ってくるかってアプリだったんですけれども、 B2B 向けですね。 Windows はB2B 非常に強いプラットフォームなので、もちろん B2B 向けアプリのスタートアップが出ています。333 2009年のイノベーションズアワードを受賞されている企業で、リンクナレッジというサービスを Windows ストアアプリで対応していただいています。簡単に言うと、名刺交換した人の人事情報とか相手の企業の情報が自動的に入ってくるというアプリなんですけれども、一つ Windows ストアアプリの特徴としてセマンティックズームというものがあります。何かというと、ただ縮尺するのではなくて、意味のある形で縮尺しているんですね。これ何かというと、時系列順に並んでいるので、縮尺するとちゃんと時系列順のカレンダーで何件名刺交換したかが分かると。例えばこれ IOU 順に変えていただくとちゃんと50を置いたんですね。 例えば家業を選択すると家業の名刺が出てきますと。やっぱり和行を見たいなと思ったらもう一回縮尺して和行の名刺を入れると。こんなことができます。もちろんスナップモード対応しているので、人の情報を見ながら、メール書きたいなと思ったらメールアプリを起動していただければ、アウトルックですぐにメールを書き出すことができると。なのでアプリとデスクトップとうまく連携して新しいユーザーに対してのユーザーエクスペリエンスを与えるということも Windows とアプリはできます。はい。ちょっと駆け足できましたけれども、あとですね、ショッピングですね。ネットで何かするっていう時間の中でショッピング非常に時間が多くなっています。で、今までのショッピングアプリですと大体あるパターンが商品を選択するとウェブページに飛んでクレジットカード決済してくださいというパターンだったと思います。今回ご紹介するストアーズ JP さんのアプリはしっかりアプリ内でカート機能が実装されてるんですね。カートに入れるってやると右上のカートに追加されてアプリの中でちゃんとショッピングが完結できる。これなかなか意外とないアプリなんですけれども、このショッピングアプリの中でちゃんとショッピングが完結することによってしっかりコンバージョンレートを上げていくことができるというのを意識して作られています。今公開されているものはウェブに最後の最後は飛んでしまうんですけれども、今日ちょっと特別にお見せするのを許可されたデモをお見せしますと、今アプリ内決済版も開発中です。これどういうことになるかというと、ちゃんとこのアプリの中でクレジットカード情報が入力できて、一切ウェブに飛ばなくてもアプリの中だけで閉じてユーザーからマネタイズすることができ